And we have a special guest from Ireland tonight. He's all the way from Ireland, and he's a screenwriter, a film producer, an actor, a director, and he's originally from Tralee, Ireland. Well, Bertie Brosnan. Bertie has a new book. I love it. Well, this book is an epic, immersive journey into the life of Brian Boru. So this is
Yeah,
incredible. Like I'm so excited to talk about it, and then would like to know how you were inspired to initially about Brian Boru.
sure. Yeah. So in 2014, 1014 was when this book is placed. So it's the Battle of Clontarf, the most famous battle of Irish history. So there was a huge kind of celebration around that time, and I started becoming very interested in him. Obviously, I knew him from school and, from my own experience in acting and filmmaking and stuff. I started thinking about like, why aren't our tales on the big screen? Why aren't they on TV? Why aren't they cinematically portrayed? And then, of course, there was kind of things I was getting worried about in terms of society, politically and stuff. And there was a moment when the Irish government actually successfully took Irish history off mandatory subjects for junior cert students, and it was in place for 1 year. And then I started getting very, very afraid, because I felt like there was a homogenization of culture happening globally. I felt like Irish culture was under attack, and I started getting into studying the likes of Brian Boru, but also other characters, of course. Like, there's many characters. Actually, she makes an appearance in this book, Gormla, as well, a High Queen of Ireland that nobody knows about, not even Irish. Yeah, she's unbelievable. She's very unique. And actually, funnily enough, I knew a school teacher that never even heard of her. So
Yeah,
that's really what the education system is on. Now, I'm not trying to be attacking teachers or anything. That it's actually the system that I'm always talking about,
exactly.
never individuals, right? So, but like, and it's not her fault. It wasn't her fault. She just didn't know, and she was appreciative to me to tell her about it. I was like, how do you not know? This lady married two high kings and was married to the last Norse king of Dublin. So like, she was an unbelievable force of nature. And actually, the protagonist in The Forgotten Prince is her son.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
Donnchad Briain, who was actually buried in Rome, and he's been actually in the press recently. And I'll get on to Gormla, but he was in the press recently because they were looking for Brian Boru's crown, because there's an urban, or not an urban myth, but an old myth that Donnchad brought Brian's crown to Rome. But to get back to Gormla, she was actually married to Brian Boru for a short time. When I say short time, relative to his lifespan, because in those days they did have several wives, concubines, and things like that. It was a different time. But she was like influential. Let's say some people blame her for the Battle of Clontarf. I don't. I think she was very influential politically speaking. She was very much. She was a daughter of the King of Leinster, so she was, she kind of grew up in the courts of the kings at the time. And there was Breton laws, and actually the high queens are forgotten about in today's circumstances, but actually they were hugely important then in terms of the actual sacred part of the high kingship, the ritual for the high kingship. The high queen would take on the persona of Era, of the land, right? The goddess of the land. And the high king was, without his high queen, there was no real ritual. There was no procession. There was no actual promotion to High King, So she was involved with these ceremonies, and she was, as I said, married to very important, influential people. Another son that she had was Citric Silkenbeard, who was an unbelievable character. He survived the Battle of Clontarf as well, and actually is the half brother of Donnchad MacBrian. That is not really, and I won't give away too many things, but is not really talked about in The Forgotten Prince, because as people will know, the story goes on with Donnchad MacBrian. The story does go on, its history, like, and that's going to be dealt with in the sequel for sure.
Well, I love that at the end because it's such an amazing story. And then at the end, you put to be continued.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah, and you brought her right into it at the end again. But I
yeah,
thought I could see so many series being done about this time period and about
yeah.
these characters. Like, it was
Yeah, I have
incredible.
a trilogy planned, so it's going to end. It's going to actually, it's really weird because in the press at the moment, Donnchad McBrien's making headlines, and it's really causing a stir. And actually, that's where my trilogy will end, is actually him being buried in Rome, like, you know.
Okay, well, I would like you to tell a little bit about that. I've read about it because of your book. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have noticed it. But it's incredible what has just happened. Like it was an
Yeah,
Irish journalist that was looking into an old legend, right? So do you want
it
to
was
tell
actually
us?
it was actually a politician, funnily
Oh,
enough, who I contacted. Now, I'll be honest with you, the party and stuff that he's involved with, not a fan of them. But credit where credit's due, that he is doing something important. And I did reach out to him to thank him for that, because there's not many politicians now that are doing work like this. So I wanted to reach out to him and thank him. And he responded. Now, when I pressed him on certain things that can be done and stuff, he did retreat a little bit, but I don't blame him for that, because he's a career politician and all that. I'm not going to hold him against that. But at the same time, I really appreciate what the work he's doing in that regard, because it's not only about the potential crown of Brian Boru in Rome, it's actually about the other artifacts that are potentially in Rome as well.
okay. Well, first, let's tell everyone that Donka, he ended up taking his father's crown, so Brian Boru's crown, this is supposedly, to the Pope. And then he ended up dying there. And so now, after 1,000 years, this fellow went back to say to the Pope, what happened to Brian Boru's crown? And so it's disappeared, or it never did get there. They didn't know anything about it, is the story that we've heard right now. But it will be interesting. I saw there's a lady who's the she's the curator of over 200,000 items at the Pope, or at the in wherever,
The
what I
Vatican.
thank you.
I would say there's probably 2 million items in their archives, to be honest, because it's meant to be horrendously big, like.
Well, I can't
you know.
remember, it was 200,000 something, but anyway, this one lady, she's been there for 27 years, and the last 7 years with the artifacts. So I thought somebody like her, whether she was directly approached about it. But what other Irish items would be there? Like
I
that's
should
so
I
interesting.
should put a caveat on this as well, though, just to be absolutely clear to the audience, because I don't want to be saying that it is definitely there and definitely that Donnchad definitely brought the crown. The story goes,
Yeah, it's just a
nobody
legend.
actually knows for sure. And he went there on a pilgrim. So what was very common of the time, a lot of the kings and even the Vikings, they used to do this kind of pilgrimage in the end, especially when they converted to Christianity. So they would do a kind of pilgrimage to these ecclesiastical centers. So Brian Boru went to Armagh, which is the ecclesiastical center of Ireland, and was buried there. I believe Donnchad said he was going to go further than his father and actually go to Rome. I think he did something similar because he was High King of Ireland as well. A lot of people dispute the fact that he was High King, but he was obviously on death's door and he made that last pilgrimage. I think it's quite fitting, and I think it makes a kind of an interesting story, and I think it makes sense that he could bring the crown, because it would be almost like him fulfilling something about his own father's life.
Yeah.
Like his father went to Armagh, then he was going to Rome, you know?
Well, it makes a great story. But that brings us back to your book, because
Yeah.
we have here today Bertie Brosnan, who wrote The Forgotten Prince. And it's about the life story of Brian Boru, who's the High King of Ireland. He was the last High King of Ireland. But Bertie, the thing you were just talking about there was about it was the changing time, because the Irish people believed, and the Vikings, and that in the other worlds, and then the Christianity was coming in. So these people lived right at the time when all of this, the world was changing. So that's what you're just talking about, people making pilgrimages to the Pope. And the Pope was the guy that was out fighting battles too, right?
Well,
So,
just to, yeah, and like I don't mean to be kind of like correcting or anything like that, but just to be clear as well, like because I made a video on the last High King of Ireland. Brian Boru was not the last High King of Ireland. Sure, Donnchad was High King himself,
yeah.
but he was the the way his own um descendants call him. They reckon he was the only real High King of Ireland, because he was the only one to unite the country. Now, a lot of people dispute this, but I'm 100% behind what he was trying to do. He was trying to he was trying to make Ireland some sort of rudimentary country, and like, or sorry, like united kind of country. Like they mightn't have thought of nations and states at the time. These were all kind of later labels that we put on things, but there was definitely some sort of challenge that he set himself to subjugate all the provincial kings and all the petty kings under one banner. And this was certainly what he did, you know. So to answer your question, there was a huge change in that time. The Scandinavians basically disappeared. Like they really were kept at bay. They were kept to the bays, really. They created their little cities, but they never conquered Ireland. They never actually had any sort of kingship in Ireland. So they would have all adopted Christianity and Gaelic culture over time and disappeared. But there was things that the Scandinavians brought Ireland, such as rudimentary uh, kind of urbanization. Like the first time or type of urbanization in Ireland, through cities and through their long forts and their cities. And we would have adapted a lot of their styles, a lot of their culture, and of course, Christianity was taking huge fold then as well. The Christian kings were very much the Christian kings. Brian Boru was a Christian king. Paganism had really kind of gone at that point. But there was definitely still pagan ways, pagan rituals, pagan things that would happen. I guess you could call it like a kind of a Celtic Christianity. Some people believe that Rome was at war with Ireland. That's a very kind of far out theory as well. There's definitely room or scope to kind of investigate that as well, because a lot of people say that with the Norman conquest of Ireland 100 years after Donnchad died, that the type of Catholicism that we have today came with them. That the type of Catholics that were in Ireland before the Norman conquest were a lot different and
Mm.
were kind of following their own style of Christianity.
Well, that's what your book is so amazing. We have the book, The Forgotten Prince, and it's about Brian Boru's life. But everybody that doesn't know anything about Brian Boru, it's an amazing story because it tells about when the Vikings were there, when like all of the different attackers that were coming to Ireland and the people, what they like, even though you say that it was after the paganism, the parts of the people in your book that they would hear the banshees and all that, and like
Yeah.
it was so creepy and eerie, some of the things that happened, and then the actual battle itself, like you could think about the Battle of Culloden, everybody hears about that, but this one was like a similar kind of terrible. Well,
Yeah,
yes, they're
yeah,
all terrible, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like
The
it's
book, it's so
definitely.
great. I'm telling you, Bertie, everybody will love your book if they get it.
Yeah, like it's basically the Battle of Clontarf and the couple of days leading into it, the Battle of Clontarf and the aftermath. And actually, it's funny you bring that up because the supernatural events, of course, like there was such belief systems around these things, like, and they were recorded, like there was the banshees and stuff like that. This is not, I didn't just make it up. There's some things of it that are fictionalized, of course, but there was accounts and records of banshees appearing before the night of battle, and actually that was in the Nile sagas as well, in the Scandinavian records, because people believed then. And I think the difference with the world today is because it's electrified, the supernatural world is almost drowned out. We're surrounded by power and we don't see it, and sometimes we do and we just take no notice because there's no mystery. But back then they believed, and like, Aveen or Avil, which was the banshee of the O'Brien clan, of the Dalcashian clan at the time. That's Brian Boru's people. She was a huge influence over the Dalcash, and like that's, she makes a kind of a type of appearance in the book as well. Her cave is down in Clare, looking over the old fort of Brian Boru. Of course, I do mention some of that as well in terms of, like, it starts off kind of, back at Killaloe and stuff, and then it builds into the story. And but the plans for the sequel, I'm going to be expanding the world, because Donnchad survives, and actually there's a half brother called Tig back in Killaloe, and it turns into a huge, how would I say, dramatic upheaval of a story in the sequel, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a longer novel as well, the next one.
Oh, awesome. And that was like Step Brothers. But interestingly,
Yeah.
where I'm from, there's a Killaloo. I'll be driving past it tomorrow on the way to my
Wow.
house. Yeah, and all of the names that here in Peterborough, it was settled by 2,000 Irish people 200 years ago. And so the names that you mentioned and the names that we see in Ireland, all the place names are the same. So it's kind of
Yeah.
strange. But a lot of people here too don't know anything or much about our own history of our ancestors.
Yeah.
So this book is a riveting, fun read. Like it's just a
Thank
quick
you.
read, and yeah, and it tells the story. Like you said, you've made it into a historical drama that is just amazing. So thank you so much for writing it, Bertie. Bertie
Yeah.
Brosnan here. Yeah.
Yeah, and just as well, because we were kind of having a discussion beforehand. In the at the back is the screenplay, as well. And the reason why that's there with the artwork is because, as I said, this was actually a film project, a short film project in the beginning, and we had investors involved, and it all kind of fell apart in the end because it's a lot of money and things. It's a long enough story, but no, we're all still friends and stuff. It's just it didn't work. They just
Yeah.
didn't understand the film industry. But the reason, so I didn't want to leave down the audience, like, so I wanted to give them something. So then that's how the book was born. So it's for investors as well. It's for investors to see like that this is a big, huge possibility, And I guess I'm making my statement in how I would see the film and the series and how it would be in my mind,
Oh,
you
and
know.
let's tell people where they can get the book too. And
Yeah, so you can get it on my website, www.bertiebrosnanfilms.com, and there's a shop on the actual website with all my other links as well.
oh, and I ordered a mug too, Bertie.
Oh, the,
Mug
the
that
Brian
says
Boru mug.
Brian Boru. I want one.
And
So,
here's the t-shirts, the Brian
oh,
Boru
see,
t-shirt.
isn't that a great picture?
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
your
the High
t.
King of Era.
Yeah, I saw you
And
have big hoodies too in that, but I've got
yeah,
a mug coming. So,
yeah.
what's the next step? Like, if people love the book and want to support you, is there any way that the average Joe can help you, kind of thing, or
There's
like?
definitely, well, there's always ways to help me. I mean, purchasing the book, purchasing the merch. I mean, people, some people give me a hard time about merch and things like that. And I'm saying, yeah, really, you know what that's all for? That's all to fund content for people so I can keep expanding. People
Exactly.
think I'm in it for profit and all that, but I'm not. The way I look at uh, what I'm doing is trying to preserve Irish history, culture, mythology, and folklore. And I'm not the only one. There's many other people doing it as well. I'm just doing it in my little kind of corner of the world.
No,
So if
you
people,
have to take the word trying. You said, I'm trying to. You are doing
I
that.
am doing it. I love
Are.
it. I
So
love it.
proud of you.
I love it. Thank you so much. But no, if anybody wants to support, all they need to do is go onto my website. There's ways of supporting if you want to do it financially, if you want to buy my book, if you want to buy my merch, if you want to just get on my social media, like my post, comment. There's so many people up there that never ever contribute anything, but they're very supportive. And I appreciate all that because that's engagement. So, people can just get on my website and there's many ways that they can choose for themselves.
And Bertie is Bertie. And then
Yeah,
Brosnan, like Pierce Brosnan,
exactly.
Brosnan. And so
Yeah,
Bertie
he's my third cousin. I'm joking.
we
I'm
all love
joking.
him too. Oh, well, you'd be from the same clan anyway. You have the same.
Absolutely. He's a kinsman. He's a kinsman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you taking the time, but I wonder now if talking about a movie, since we're going on from the book, do you have a dream director, cast, production company, or anybody in mind, or are you just going to see what?
Well, the plan was for me to direct because I have directed films
Oh,
before, and
yay!
it would be my vision now. But like, I mean, look, I'm open. I mean, at the end of the day, no, okay. So just to answer your question, the plan was for me to direct, and then Timothy V. Murphy to play Brian Boru, as High King, because Timothy is at that age where Brian Boru was 60 plus when he became High King and died at 73. Timothy is at the age where he could play Brian when he just gets the High Kingship. I think Michael Fassbender is a great option. I know everybody kind of says Cillian Murphy. Yeah, he could have a part in it, but he would not be a High King of Ireland. There's no way. Not for me. He's too good looking. Even though Timothy's good looking as well, he just has that rugged. weathered kind of like warrior vibe to him, like, but Killian is too pretty for me, like,
Yeah.
um but Killian is an unbelievable actor, and and he deserved his Oscar last year. So yeah, like production companies, I mean, I'm open, Element Pictures, anyone at all. But the thing is, what I really want to do, my main goal is to create the intellectual property, and then for the investors to come on board and give me what they want to do, like, give me their pitch, because I'm pitching to them so
Yes.
they can pitch to me
Yeah.
what they want to do.
Because
And
there
I
are,
would obviously would consult, and I would say that this is what I think should happen. But I'm open.
yeah, because there are so many people out there that are looking for projects. So it's just a matter of time before you find the right one. And then you have the
Absolutely.
dream team, and then we'll get to see this on the big screen too.
Absolutely. And I
All
think
of
as
them.
well, and lastly as well, like Timothy V. Murphy is my dream character out or dream actor out of anyone in the whole entire world to play Brian Boru, because he grew up right near him, looks like him, has the physique, has the height, has that kingly presence. Plus he's young enough to even if it was not for the 10 years, he could play Brian at the Battle of Clontarf. So that's the beauty.
So cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. I don't, we have a few more minutes probably, but I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. Bertie Brosnan he's an author that wrote The Forgotten Prince. And so that's what we're talking about. So you can go on to Amazon and get it, or you can get it from bertiebrosnan.com. Right?
Exactly, and I have signed copies as well if anyone's interested.
Hey, I'm coming over there to get mine signed.
Oh, you have to.
I
And Top
come.
Vulture Road, and Gura Mila Mahagut for bringing me on as well.
Oh, see, I love hearing the Irish. I've taken Irish with Molly, and she's been on our show too. And
I am doing the same course. I need it because my I was traumatized in school from my Irish teachers, the
I
Catholic
bet
nuns, God bless them.
she
Yeah,
actually told stories about that too.
yeah, yeah.
Irish with
Irish with
Molly,
Molly is the best ever.
she's
She's so good.
amazing. Yeah,
She's so good.
she was
Anawa, Anawa.
okay. So we'll get back to language another day, but for today, is there something that you'd like to leave us with about the Forgotten Prince?
The only thing I would like to say is that the thing to remember about what I'm trying to achieve is just ultimately preserving our culture, our heritage, our mythology, our folklore. This is what inspires me. These stories inspire me. I'm not the only one, but this is my little corner of the world that I'm trying to preserve in the vision that I have. Ultimately, I feel these films or these stories need to be on the big screen. They need to be on there, and they eventually video games as well. These worlds are untapped. They're untapped, and forget your Game of Thrones, forget your Lord of the Rings. This is real stuff, and I think it's just unbelievable that it's not on there yet. And I tell you, the potential monetary gain as well,
Oh, well, think
because
of
it's
all
unbelievable, you know.
everybody learning about their ancestors and everybody making money, like you're giving jobs to all the actors. I've heard there is in Dublin, isn't there, where the Titanic building was some huge film studio? Like, would
Oh
that be?
yeah, there's huge studios here now. There's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think there's talks of Grace O'Malley's story being, or Grania Nwalya's story being told, the Pirate Queen of Mayo by Kirsten Sheridan. Do you? Yeah, yeah,
Oh, what
yeah.
you're talking about. And thank goodness that you are there putting out the history for us so we can all learn about it. And when you learn about your own people, then and other people, like the thing about you is that you're putting it out there, the Irish story, and that way everybody gets to hear about it and then celebrate it. And then you can go on and listen to your neighbors' stories too. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I'm 100%.
yeah.
Look, my partner, which we're kind of keeping quiet at the moment, is from another country. I can't wait. I'm learning about her culture. I'm learning about we're going seeing a movie that's based in her country as well. I love that. I love learning about other people's cultures. I'm all about that, like, but I'd be very adamant about our own story and our own culture and own mythology and own folklore, like, because whenever I go, say, to sacred sites, I've visited many places in the world, and I go to sacred sites or people's, and they're telling me about their history. Like, I would treat that place just like I treat a sacred site here. you
exactly.
know. Obviously, I don't understand, and it's not mine, like, but I would still have reverence and respect, you know.
Yeah,
And I think that that's the way things should be treated for every culture, like, nothing should be
yeah,
just stepped upon and changed and all that kind of stuff. So that's
no,
my kind of mission.
that's the Irish way.
Yeah,
So
it is indeed.
thank you so much for having or for coming on to the show today, Bertie. And everybody, it's Bertie Brosnan, The Forgotten Prince. So we'll have you back again when you've got the movie going. How's that sound?
I hope so. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's put it out there to the universe. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bertie.
Thank you.
No, but I was thinking I didn't mention about Jacob wrestling with the angel. That's amazing. Like that is just
Did you
beautiful.
watch it?
I did. I watched that the other day.
Wow.
Oh,
Did you?
yeah,
I'm
there's
so happy you watched that, Mary.
well, honestly, and I thought it was very like fascinating how you did it because I didn't know where it was
Wow.
going at first, but you are really good. You're great. So I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see what else you do. And
Oh,
so,
Goramaragot. That was over 10 years ago. I actually have the posters up here, and they're my pride and joy, like especially Jacob Wrestled with the Angel and Sin Eater. And I got them distributed worldwide via Cannes Short Film Corner as well.
that's awesome.
Um, for like 2 years. They had like a 2-year deal. Did you check out Sin Eater yet? Because I think you like that too. It's a bit darker now, I'll be honest.
Oh, I see. Like at first, I thought it was going to be creepy because, like, I've got the creepy vibe, like when you
Okay.
say people can't see it. Well. So I never watched spooky stuff. But then anyway,
Ah,
I loved yours. But no, I don't remember the other one. Like, because I just
good.
thought I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
or
But
maybe
what
I
do
did see it.
I'd be interested to I'd be interested and no
Oh,
right or wrong answer, but I'd be interested to
yeah.
know what your take is on Jacob Wrestled with the Angel. You wouldn't believe, like, we were actually filming that in an abandoned mental asylum in Dublin.
Oh, creepy.
And it turned out that we didn't even know this, but it turned out that actually loads of other film productions were shot there, and they didn't even tell us that. Like, and we found out afterwards, and it was like it made total sense because at one point there was like production design on the wall that was left after the last film, and we actually ended up incorporating it into the
Oh,
the shot, and it
yeah,
was just
that's funny.
insane, like, but it was for me, like, Jacob is all about, like, he was wrestling his conscience because the girl that he was with was going on a very dark path, politically and stuff like that, and she was going like into a big campaign and stuff, and his conscience was wrestling, and he was on a more of a creative path, and he knew, like, when he woke up, like, that this I need to get out of here because it's not good for me to stay in this. I mean, it's a very kind of a young kind of a thing, because it was like 10 years ago, like 12 years ago now when I met that.
Yeah, I have to watch. I want to watch it again now that you've told me that and just see, remember what I was thinking at the time. But
I
yeah,
appreciate you watching it though,
no,
because
I
whenever
thought it was,
someone tells me they've watched one of my films, I actually get more excited by that than
no, it
other
was
stuff.
really awesome.
Like, where I'm at the moment is I want to get the trilogy made, or sorry, written and produced and out there in the world, because I feel like having the trilogy selling, 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 and being an actual intellectual property, I just feel like I'll be in a position then to kind of really
You'll get a
sell
phone
the
call.
project.
Yep. No, but congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary. God bless
Okay.
you. And you and,
I,
and you have a lovely accent. It sounds Irish.
oh, that's weird. That's from my family. So, yeah. Okay.
God bless. Take
Yeah.
care, Sloan.
Okay.